Coming at you on Art Rocks, the native Louisiana opera star who's charming and amazing audiences worldwide.
Opera is a very special art form because it combines everything. I mean, you have singing, you have drama.
A Minnesota maker creates jewelry to connect with her indigenous cultural heritage, loving life through creativity. And a photographer finding new ways to get to grips with the world around him. That's all about to happen on Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello, I'm James Fox Smith, publisher of Country Roads Magazine, thanking you for joining us for Art Rocks. Louisiana native Lisette Oropesa thrills audiences in some of the premier opera houses around the globe, in New York City to London to Argentina and beyond. During a recent performance back in her hometown of Baton Rouge, the highly regarded lyric coloratura talked about how she honed that talent.
There's this element in the night, in the darkness, of looking up in wonder. And I think that's a very magical time. Opera is a very special art form because it combines everything. I mean, you have singing, you have drama, theater, you have orchestra, you have costumes, you have a tremendous sense of fantasy and of a world that people come into a theater to experience. And I feel like that's really special. I grew up singing. My mother was a very gifted singer who asked all my sisters sing, my aunts all sing. So I'm very fortunate that I've had a very musical upbringing.
Lisette's mother was my student. And so probably when Lisette was 6 or 8, she was hanging around at some rehearsals. Rebecca, her mother, brought Lisette to sing for me when she was in high school. And so I remember that from our meeting. It was in this room. And she sang a little bit for me, and I said, well, I would love to work with you this fall.
He took me under his wing as a student, as an undergraduate at LSU, and has guided me ever since. After LSU, I did the Met competition the last year of my undergrad, and I won first place. And I was invited immediately to come into the Met's Young Artist program. And essentially, you move to New York City and you begin studying as a young artist at the Met, which is that you're there every single day, and you're there for 3 years, doing only that. And that's exactly what I did.
She has a beautiful voice. She's very intelligent. She's a very diligent hard worker. She has a really giving stage presence to where, you know, when I see her perform on stage, I believe everything she says. You know, I never think she's thinking about singing. I always feel like she's really involved in the drama. When
I watch theater now, even when I watch films, I try to really see what I can learn from the actors that move me. What is that actor doing that I'm reacting to? How is that actor relating to me as an audience member? Then I try my best to bring that on stage. But the difference with opera is that we have to sing that. We don't get to speak it. We don't get the liberty of choosing how fast and when to say our lines. And I think that a lot of times, the best thing to do is to just trust that the music speaks for itself. You don't have to add any extra ingredients because it's all there, but you also have to be open and honest. And that's scary on stage.
And one of my favorite duets is Gounod's from Gounod's Romeo and Juliet. And there's a duet, a love duet in the final act that's a beautiful piece, and I thought it would be perfect for the two of us.
I didn't know that piece before. I'd never looked at it. I mean, I looked at it, but I'd never performed it. So it's a first-time duet. And you know, it's a role that actually I've dreamt of singing for a long time, and I haven't had the chance to do it yet. So to get to sing the gorgeous love duet from Romeo is already a blessing, but to do it with Paul Groves is really nice. I'm really lucky that we're doing the Traviata duet with Brandon, because Traviata is a very special opera to me. My mom sang it when I was younger, and so I always have this very, very deep connection to Traviata because of my mom.
And I remember hearing Lisette sing for the first time and just being absolutely blown away, not only by her singing, but also by her ability to capture a character. It's inspiring to be on stage with her. And if she's not the best storyteller in opera, she's certainly absolutely one of the best. She just always gives absolutely dynamic and gripping performances.
I think that the aria that I'm doing from I Masnadieri, Verdi's I Masnadieri, that aria, right now at this point in my life, is very significant because I'm going to be doing that role as my debut at La Scala this coming season, in just a few months. And La Scala is the crown jewel of the operatic world, and that's the role that I'm going to be doing. So I feel in a lot of ways a sense of needing to honor this piece and needing to honor this role because I'm getting the chance to do it for the first time in Milan. To get an invitation to even sing there ever as an American is a huge deal, and so I feel very, very grateful.
She is one of the finest singers that we have. She has a beautiful voice, beautiful sound, and she's expressive, a marvelous actor, and she's everything that an opera singer should be, I think. I think these two kind of wonderful homegrown singers here from LSU with the students of the LSU orchestra. I mean, this, and plus other students who are singing roles in the performance as well. I mean, for them to have an opportunity with these two alums to come back and then interact with them, it's a real giving back.
I haven't actually sung at LSU since I was a student. So it's nice to have a chance to come back, and I'm visiting and I'm a guest on the campus, but I also feel like I'm at home because it's where I went to school, it's where I graduated from. Everything that has ever happened in my life has pointed in this direction, has given me an advantage of some kind, and that's whatever you want to call it. I like to call it a blessing, but it's also, I'm just glad that at some point in my life I was able to take all those blessings and those gifts and work on making them better so that I could have an opportunity at all to sing for a living. So I'm very, 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 very lucky and happy.
Accomplished artists from this state and all around the country are showcasing work in museums and galleries near you. Here are some of our picks for notable exhibits coming soon to a museum or gallery in your community. For more about these and many more events in the arts, subscribe to Arts Monthly, the new free e-newsletter from the editors at LPB and Country Roads magazine. What's more, the Art Rocks website features every episode of this program, so to see or share any episode again, log on to lpb.org and navigate to Art Rocks. Whether she's working with paintbrushes, glass, string, bead or metal, every piece that passes through Marisa Martinez's hands reflects her mission of connecting hearts through the telling of stories. For inspiration, the Minnesota artist relies on her spirituality and her ancestral roots among the Tolteca and Maya people of Mexico. Here's her story.
You have choices in life, and I really believe that we all have a choice, but we don't all have angels. And for me, I've had angels in my life. I think that I did have a choice and I could have gone a different direction, but those people really impacted my life and my world and helped me and supported me and encouraged me to be where I am today. I was trained as a fine artist, so I come at jewelry design from a little bit of a different perspective in the sense that I tend to design from a place of color and composition. Painting for me was almost like writing a book about my life, because the things I wanted to paint, I was so intent on telling my story through my paintings. And that's not the kind of paintings that somebody wants to just buy and hang on their wall. With jewelry, for me, it's not complete until somebody else has it and is wearing it. And so I still get to put myself into the piece, but I'm happier when it's on somebody else. And to me, it's finished. The Milagro series is the series that I work on with the glass. So this is doing flame work, and it incorporates glass rods. I use a torch to heat up the glass, and it's much like glass blowing, but very small scale. It's a huge craft in Mexico, for one, so I really was attracted to that. And then also the colors. To me, the glass is like working with paint. When you melt the glass, it kind of turns the consistency of honey, so you're painting with the glass. I don't like perfection, so I don't like things to be perfect. And so my beads kind of tend to be playful. You can tell that they have my artist mark on them. Milagro actually means miracle, but I chose the Milagro name for that series because I kind of think that the process of the glass going from a solid to a non-solid, back to a solid, the whole process of it is kind of a little miracle in and of itself. When I first started making the pieces, I would include a little handmade milagro. Every culture has them, but in Mexico they're called milagros, and they're little charms that represent a prayer or wish, or they're given in thanks. And I wanted to bring that little piece into my work and kind of have it be a little like a trademark. My family are migrant workers, so I was born here in the United States, but my family's from Mexico. The first half of my life, I was raised in a Mexican culture, and mostly by my grandmother, who is an amazing woman and taught me so much about life and has an influence still today in my life. But then from the time I was 8 until I graduated, I ended up becoming a foster child, and that had a huge impact on my life as well. Art was something that I didn't think that I could make a living or be successful doing art. And it wasn't until my sophomore year in college that I decided that I'll study art and now maybe I'll become a teacher. It allows me flexibility with my 2 children. I have 2 little boys. And I need to have a lot of flexibility to be the mom that I want to be to them. And so having my own business and being a teacher allows me that flexibility. 7 years ago. My very close friend, Leanne, kind of like an adopted mother now. I call her madrina, which means godmother. She gave me this amazing gift of this little bag of tools and beads and some silver, and then a card that came along with the gift saying that she wanted to teach me what she knew. I thought of it as, okay, this is going to be something special I can just do for myself, kind of what I do for my students now. But I never imagined that it would be this gift that would change my life. It would completely change my life. But it wasn't only from her. She was part of this amazing women's group. They're all artists, and they all just kind of took me under their wing, and they really instilled in me this idea of empowerment and that I could do something with this gift. I think traditionally, if you would ask most people, is jewelry an art or a craft? They would say it's a craft. In our culture, we have altars. They're called ofrendas as well. And you put things that are very important to you on these. And I said, what if I created a limited edition series of jewelry and I made its own little shrine for it? So its own little ofrenda. And it would act as a piece of actual fine art. Incorporating the background that I have into my piece, I do it the same way I would a painting or a sculpture. And I think about it the same way. So to me, I think it is an art.
Southbound from Minnesota, in Oklahoma City is where you'll find multimedia artist Suzanne Wallace Mears. She's a witty woman whose vivacious love of life is reflected in her contemporary glass sculpture, paintings and ceramics.
Treats. Come. Oh yes, would you like a treat? Would you like a treat? Oh, what a good boy. My name is Suzanne Wallace Mears, and I am a multimedia artist. Okay, here we go. Oh. I was born being happy. I was born being optimistic. And I was born lucky that I get up early in the morning and I'm just on.
Are you drunk?
And I love a lot of variety in my life. I don't like to do just one basic thing all the time. So it's easy for me. Working is easy. I put in between 6 and 12 hours a day. And I work 7 days a week. I work every day. Suzanne Wallace Mears has a problem maybe focusing, I don't know. They call me Captain Chaos. One of my children, my son, calls me Captain Chaos. And that's because I'm just into all things. And I never sit down and never rest. I'm just busy all the time. A multimedia artist is an artist who works in more than one medium. Most artists choose to work in only one medium, like an oil painter, or they work in clay, or they're a glass blower. I choose to work in as many different mediums as I can. And the reason that I do that is because I feel that it's an inspirational thing. I don't want to get tied up. I don't want to get bored. Painting, I work in two different mediums with the paint, acrylic or oil. If it's acrylic paint, which is water-based, that I work in that with my abstract compositions. And the reason is acrylic paint sets up very rapidly. The oil I work with for landscape painting. And I have a whole different technique working with the oil, and this will sound absolutely crazy, but I paint with my hands. Clay, I'm just working on a lot of tribal mass right now, and I've just discovered raku clay, raku firing. And I guess that's another one. Here it's just too much fun. I think my glass is very unique. I haven't seen any work like it in any gallery that I've been in, from Santa Fe or Chicago or San Francisco, or I haven't seen anything like it. I have an awful time trying to describe what it is that I do. I have a terrible time trying to describe glass, the process of glass. I have people all the time that are asking, now how do you do this? Well, because maybe when they say, how do you do this? I'm looking at 12 years of intense work to get to this point where I'm able to create these pieces. And I'm going to take that 12 years and I'm going to try to bone it down into about 4 sentences that make sense. So basically it's flat. I work with flat glass, colored flat glass. And it's cut into sections or pieces and laid flat, like a Dagwood sandwich would be. And it's fired flat. It's fired in a kiln up to about 1500 degrees. And then it melts all together into one piece. And then you take that one piece, that flat piece, and you put it on top of a mold. And the mold could be something that I make, which I make a lot of my own, most of my own molds. And it could be undulating form or whatever I choose for it to be. You put that flat glass on top of that. Or you put it on top of a bowl mold. And then you heat that kiln back up again, and the glass softens and it takes on the form that's underneath of it. Well, I've always been interested in tribal work. And it's just a theme that I love. And so I have that theme and I carry it through, whether it's painting or clay or glass. It's always there. I've got a lot of money invested in creating these pieces, and that is one of the reasons why it costs so much money. It comes to me from a supplier in Denver, Colorado, and it comes the color that you're going to use. It doesn't change color in the firing. This probably was $120. So you've got your sheet glass, but then you've got all your embellishments that go along with putting a piece together. And that means that you've got copper, mesh copper. You've got all of these over here. These are all different colors of frit. Now you see how this reflects different colors depending on how I hold it. It could be green to gold. This is called dichroic glass. It runs anywhere from $157 to $500 a sheet. For this. Wang. Raku, we do it outside. And I don't do the actual firing. There's a gentleman here who's really an expert at it, and he does the firing. But you have a cement blocks on the ground, you have a flat shelf on top of it. You put your bisque pieces, glazed bisque pieces on top of that. A lid comes down over it, a garbage can lid goes on top of it. Propane heats it up, and it goes to 1800 degrees in 15 minutes. Then you take the lid off, and you pick that, the pieces are glowing, they're red, glowing hot, and you pick them up with steel tongs, and you immediately put them in a garbage can full of wood chips and newspaper, and it all lights on fire, and smoke is coming out all over everywhere, and you put the lid back down there, and it sits in there for about 20 minutes, and that's where you get all the black soot black that penetrates all the clay that isn't glazed. And that's done. So that's what I'm working on right now for the clay. I just think that's a lot of fun. People are so happy with my work. It just makes them smile, makes them feel good. Well, that's my message. My message is all about, I want you to feel good. I want you to be happy when you have a piece of my artwork. What can we do? I think you should live every day. I think you shouldn't ever just sit down and see, that's me. Now that's me. I like to really stay busy. I like to be doing things. That's my philosophy. For the best life you can have, just do it all. Just do as much as you can. Do it every day. You never know when you won't be able to do it, and you won't be healthy enough, or you. So I'm just interested in everything.
Closer to home in Houston, Texas, photographer Peter Molick has made a name with his striking images of his home city's skyline. Now the architectural photographer is giving his perspective wings, so to speak, turning to drone technology to capture the space city from strikingly different viewpoints.
My process is very simple, and I try to be sort of as stealthy as possible and sort of quick as possible, remaining safe. I don't like rush it, but I like to sort of remain sort of unseen and not have people bother me and talk to me about it, just because it's sort of a controversial subject. When you're on the ground, I don't think you really think about your surroundings a lot, especially in downtown Houston when a lot of people are still sort of unfamiliar with it. I think they have sort of blinders on when they're walking around in the street, so it sort of gives us just a different context. Houston Crossings is a project that I started a few months ago that is shooting intersections from above in a sort of grid-like way that they all sort of align, and it creates this sort of abstract view of the city. When I first got the drone, I just had this image of flying up from an intersection and seeing sort of the city grow out of that image. And as I started trying to do that, I realized how much I like to see, especially with this wide-angle lens, the buildings sort of splay out from an intersection, and you see it, a very familiar sight from a totally different vantage point. Texas and Crawford specifically, you see this construction project that's happening across the street that has these columns poured, these concrete columns and nothing else, so that you get this interesting sort of splaying of that grid. You get a glimpse of the stadium, but you don't really see much of the stadium. And it just gives a different, sheds a different light on the life of the city, I think. I studied architecture here at U of H, and I have been practicing architecture for 7 or 8 years now. But I started doing architectural photography here about 2 or 3 years ago, and I really just developed a love for that and documenting other people's spaces, essentially finished spaces, and seeing what other people are doing around the city. I think the great thing about drones is you're able to fly lower and into tighter spaces than you normally would be able to. The other thing that I think is really great is you have complete control over your exact positioning, and you can be very deliberate about symmetries and axes, and which is something that I do in the Houston Crossings thing. Is I'm very specific about making it very symmetrical, and so they all align really well. The drone is a pretty simple technology, really. This is a quadcopter, and as they get bigger, they have more rotors which spin in different directions to sort of control the direction or elevation. The camera mechanism is called a gimbal, which is to stabilize footage. All of the camera settings and everything are controlled from a mobile app, either on your phone or on a tablet or something. It's connected GPS satellite, so when I take my hands off the controller, it'll hover there so I can really focus on the shot. Most of my subject matter has been downtown. Houston Crossing sort of stemmed out of that. It was a lot of the sort of extension of my cityscape photography. You can sort of center on a building, and it sort of showcases where that building sits within the city in a really unique light. Well, artistically, I think it really offers vantage points that you just couldn't get before. It's enabling filmmakers to get shots that are low-flying, smooth panning shots, and these really amazing artistic shots that wouldn't be able to have been done before, period. But when they would have been able to have been done, it would have been with helicopters. So I think it's really allowing people like me that wouldn't be able to do this the opportunity to see things from a light that they might not have been able to before.
And that'll do it for another edition of Art Rocks. But as you know, you can always find, watch and share episodes of the show at lpb.org/artrocks. And if you want to know more about the culture that surrounds you, Country Roads Magazine makes a great resource for finding out what's going on in the arts all across the state. So until next week, I've been James Fox Smith, and thanks to you for watching.